Hey everyone, real quick before I start this review, I want to say that most of the game reviews I do probably will not include much gameplay footage, if any at all, really. And that's really just because it's a lot of work for me to have to edit all of that in, and I don't really have the time to be editing in like dozens of clips of stuff, so I know that might be inconvenient for some people, but sorry, there's not really much I can do about it for now. And I'm also using DaVinci Resolve, and I hate DaVinci Resolve, and it's my only option, so the less I have to mess around with it, the better. Anyways, tonight I'm going to be doing a review of one of the most popular zombie games out right now, and that is Dying Light. I played this game on the Switch, and, well, I would show you my copy of the game, but I got it on the eShop. I think you can probably see the logo there, or the icon on my Switch. And, yeah, so I obviously don't have a physical copy of the game. I uninstalled it just so I'd have more room for other games. And I also wasn't recording footage of this game when I was playing it, so this is just going to be me talking to the camera. And this version's called Dying Light Platinum Edition, as you can see from the... I never know which way to point with this camera, because it's like mirrored. Whatever. It's called Dying Light Platinum Edition, and it has all of the DLC included. The only real difference between the Switch version and the other console versions are that the graphics aren't quite as good, but I still think it looks pretty nice, especially for the Switch. And this version also has motion controls, which I think is pretty nice because it lets you aim you can aim with the gyro controls, which is nice, and you can also swing your Joy-Con or Pro Controller to attack with a melee weapon. And I actually played this game with the Joy-Cons when I first started it, and the motion controls are pretty fun, but you can also do all the same stuff with the Pro Controller, so I just switched over to that after a little bit. And you can also turn the controller during lock picking, and it's supposed to turn the knob or something. I don't like it. I'm pretty sure I discovered it by accident, just like I slightly moved my controller and it turned the... I think, whatever, I don't... Still one part of it I don't like, but yeah, I've gotta say, this is a really good Switch port. Like, I think the game still looks really good, and for the most part it runs well. The only real issue I've had with it was every once in a while the frame rate, it stutters a little bit. It's nothing crazy, and it usually only happened to me when there were like a whole bunch of enemies on the screen or a bunch of stuff going on. But yeah, I mean, if that's not gonna really ruin the experience for you, and if you're okay with the graphics being a bit worse and the frame rate stuttering just a little bit every now and then yeah, I'd say get this version for the portability. If the Switch is your only option, then you're still gonna have a great time with this. I think you're definitely not missing out. Now, I would get into this game's story, but since Dying Light the Beast is coming out soon, which I just pre-ordered last weekend, and this game's main protagonist, Kyle Crane, is coming back for that game as the lead. I don't want to spoil anything for people that are playing this game now to try and catch up on his story. And the second game, which takes place 22 years later, has a different main protagonist. In fact, I'm pretty sure Kyle isn't even in it at all, outside of some photos you can find and a few mentions of him here and there. Regardless, I'll give a quick little synopsis of the story for this first game. In this city called Haran, there's a virus turning people into zombies, and it's been infecting the city for 2 months. And an organization called the Global Relief Effort, at least I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's called the GRE for short. They've been sending supply drops into the city for the people that are still alive down there. And as I already mentioned, you play as Kyle Crane, and he works for the GRE as one of their operatives, and you're sent to Haran to recover a stolen file. And you meet the survivors in the city and help them out with stuff. And as the story goes on, you and Kyle both start to question what the GRE's true intentions are. And that's kind of the general idea of the story. I would get more into it, but with the new game coming out in just a few weeks, I'd imagine a lot of people are probably playing this one now to catch up, so I don't want to say too much about it. Although, I personally don't think that the story is anything all that special. There's definitely some pretty cool moments here and there, but there's not a whole lot you haven't seen before if you've played other zombie games or really any action game, for being honest. It's kind of predictable, but I think it's still, it's entertaining enough to where it kept me interested in playing. Still wanted to see what all would happen next. And for a game like this, I don't think you really need a super deep and complex story. I mean, it is sort of, I don't know if I'd say this game's an RPG. It definitely has some RPG elements to it, but I think I'd say it's more of an action survival game than an RPG. And, yeah, the story isn't anything amazing, but you can certainly do a whole lot worse. Some cool characters in it, and Kyle's definitely my favorite character in the game, and that is in no small part due to the fact that he's voiced by Roger Craig Smith, who you might know voices Sonic the Hedgehog, and he's voiced a ton of other characters in a bunch of games and all sorts of things, really. We don't really learn much about Kyle's past or why he works for the GRE. I'd imagine he's maybe ex-military or something, because he's definitely pretty skilled in combat and survival skills, but we never really find that out for sure, but it's not super important, I guess. And I think he has a pretty good character arc in this game. I can't really get into it too much, but I think it's kind of nice the way that he changes throughout the story. And yeah, Roger Craig Smith gives a pretty great performance in this game. You definitely can feel Kyle's emotions, and you can tell how he's reacting to everything that's going on around him. And you can tell that he's a good guy, and he really does want to, help out the survivors in the city. And he also curses a lot. Like, I'm talking like Ellie from The Last of Us a lot. And I think it's pretty funny. There's some lines that legitimately made me laugh, and the fact that you can definitely hear a hint of, Sonic's voice in Kyle, I think just makes it funnier to me, because it just makes me picture Sonic constantly dropping F-bombs, and I don't know, I think that's pretty amusing. And this dude also does some awesome, badass stuff in this game. And I think he's a pretty likable character overall. And I'm really looking forward to see where Dying Light the Beast is gonna take him, and what his story is gonna be like in that game. But this first game, the story is definitely not what made it as popular as it is. That would have to be the gameplay. And this game is a lot of fun. You can pretty much explore the whole city whenever you want to after you do the I guess there's a section in the beginning of the game that sort of teaches you how the general mechanics work. Or I should have just said there's a tutorial. I don't know why I had to stretch that out so much, but whatever. Sort of like a mix between the free-running parkour in Assassin's Creed and the first-person like combat survival gameplay of the Far Cry games. You use parkour to jump across buildings and climb all sorts of stuff, and there's also a crafting system and it lets you make weapons and modify them, and you can attach certain upgrades to them and make them have elemental effects, so you can make like a lightning sword and swing it at enemies and electrocute water, and you can make a fire sword and stuff. It's pretty cool. And you can also craft, survival kits and pretty typical stuff for survival games. I think I said survival kits, I meant to say med kits, but you get the idea. I really enjoy the combat in this game. You use like blunt melee weapons like pipes, and you can also use things like machetes and axes, and also swords, and those can actually cut enemies to pieces. I love it when games have dismemberment with swords and stuff, and it doesn't just feel like you're hitting an enemy with a blunt object. No, in this game, you can slice off heads and limbs, and you can even slice enemies' bodies in half. It is super bloody. In fact, this is probably one of the most violent games I've ever played. It's brutal, but I think it's awesome if you can handle the gore and all the blood and guts flying everywhere. Then you're gonna have a lot of fun fighting zombies. And you can also use a bow, which you can craft different types of arrows for. You can make fire arrows, electric arrows, and my favorite, the explosive arrows. And it's really funny to just launch one of them at a group of zombies and see them flying all over the place. And you can use guns in the game too, but I really only use them when I'm fighting the human enemies or when I'm maybe surrounded by a whole bunch of zombies. I just think the melee weapons are generally a lot more fun to use. But yeah, overall the combat and traversal in this game are so satisfying, and definitely my favorite things about it. You have levels and skill trees in this game, and you get experience points by doing stuff like fighting and jumping. That is for the two of the skill trees, the power and agility skill trees. There's a third one called the survival skill tree, and that one is a lot harder to get experience for. And you do get a grappling hook if you manage to level up your survival tree to level 12, and I sort of used, not a glitch, but I sort of used an exploit that I found out about online to get to level 12, and I kind of just stopped trying to level it up after that, because when you get to level 12 you get a grappling hook, which is really fun to use. It works a lot like how it does in games like Far Cry 3 and Halo Infinite, where you can pretty much latch onto anything and just zip right to it. It does have you do have to let it recharge for a bit after you use it a couple times though, which it's not a huge deal I guess, but every once in a while it was slightly irritating. And like I said, I didn't really focus on leveling up the survival tree, because you die in this game and you'll lose a lot of experience points for it. Like every time you die, it takes away survival points, so it was just too hard for me to accumulate enough points, and yeah, I just didn't bother with it much. And during the daytime you play the game like how you'd play most action games. You explore and jump around and fight zombies, and sometimes you'll be fighting humans. And there's some survival elements to it, but I wouldn't really call it a scary game during the daytime. But when you get to nighttime, it turns into a freaking horror game. This game's creepy when you're playing it, and it turns into night. In fact, you're actually encouraged to just stay in the safe zones and sleep through the night instead of exploring at night. And that's because, well, mainly because, one, it's actually pretty much pitch black at night. You have to have your flashlight on to be able to see anything unless there's other light sources out and around, but it's pretty hard to see at night. And also there's these big zombie monster things called volatiles that are roaming around at night. And if they see you, they will chase you down, and they're so freaking fast. And it is possible to kill them if you use the right weapons, but they're just so fast. It's not super hard to get away from them, but when they catch you, it's pretty terrifying. They pin you down, and then you can just see their jaws are split, and the tongue is sticking out. You just see them hissing at you with their teeth and their glowing eyes. It just creeps you out. It's like the game is, everything's in first person. It's like right in your face. It's creepy. And you can get out of that if you mash the A button fast enough, but if you don't, then they eat you. So that's fun. And so about a year after the game release, they put out an expansion called Dying Light the Following, and it takes place not too long after the main story. It never really says exactly how long it's been, but in terms of gameplay, I don't really know if I enjoyed the Following more or if I enjoyed the base game more. The Following takes place on the countryside, and according to my Switch user page, I've played this game for about 45 hours. I didn't do much side quests. In the Following, you kind of have to do a lot of side quests for the main story. But yeah, you could probably finish the main story of the base game in maybe about 20 hours or so if you're not focused on if you're not doing side quests, and the Following would probably take you like, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 hours or so. But yeah, I had a great time playing both. It's both really fun, and I'm not gonna get into the story at all for the Following, because if you've been keeping up with Dying Light the Beast at all, then well, if you've played the Following and beaten it, and you've kept up with Dying Light the Beast, then you can probably tell that game's story is definitely leading up into the Beast. So yeah, I don't want to give anything away, especially the ending of the Following. Like, you can tell that it leads right into Dying Light the Beast. Like, you can tell. But I'm getting off track here. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so the core gameplay is pretty much the exact same as the base game, except you have a buggy that you can drive around in, and you do have to maintain it. You have to repair its parts, because once those get damaged, it can slow you down a whole lot, and it's a little irritating, but it's super easy to find the right parts or the materials to fix up parts of your buggy, so it's not really that bad, and it's fun to just drive around through the countryside, and you can just mow down zombies and run through everything. It is annoying because when you go off road and there's trees everywhere. I kept constantly bumping into trees like all the time, so that got annoying. And again, I played it on the Switch, and I thought that like driving the buggy, I was thinking like, oh, this is gonna like chug the frame rate a lot, but no, it's actually feels pretty smooth, and it's great, really. Like I was really impressed with this port. I know I said that already, but I think it's worth saying again. Yeah, you do get a driver skill tree in the following, which lets you upgrade the buggy's parts so you can have more durability, and you can also, I'm pretty sure you can also add weapons to it, but I didn't really do that because I just didn't get enough experience for that. And you can upgrade other components to it, like you can get like a nitrous upgrade, which lets you do a speed boost, and it's mostly kind of stuff that you'd expect for a car that you drive. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. But yeah, since I know I didn't really say much about the expansion, but it's mainly because the story's kind of the main focus of it all, and since I don't want to spoil any of it, there's not really much I can talk about, although I will say that I definitely thought that the following had a much more interesting story than the base game. It's still nothing incredible if you ask me, but I definitely thought that the story was better here. And the last thing I want to mention about this game is its soundtrack. I loved the soundtrack. I think that it's great. It can be creepy and atmospheric, and it can also be energetic and hype you up when you're fighting zombies and whatnot. And I think it all just works really well with this game. It definitely has a bit of a unique feel to it. I don't really know how to explain it without playing the music, but if you listen to the soundtrack or play the game for yourself, you'll probably understand what I'm talking about. And that's pretty much all I've got to say about this game. As for what score I'm going to give it, I'm going to go with an 8.5 out of 10. The gameplay is awesome, and the music's great, and I don't think the story's anything stellar, but it's still got some entertaining moments for sure. And I'd definitely recommend playing this game if you haven't already. I'm pretty sure it's also on sale right now on pretty much everything. I think it was actually free last weekend on Steam or something as their way of like apologizing for Dying Light the Beast getting delayed, so should be able to get this game for pretty cheap somewhere. And yeah, I'm pretty excited for Dying Light the Beast, and if that game ends up having a better story than this and even better gameplay, then I think we're all in for a real treat. And from what I've been seeing, I think this game will have a better story and improved gameplay. So I am definitely looking forward to getting my hands on it. But yeah, that's all I've got. Thank you for watching. Have a good night, and I will see you guys later. Bye.